California is known for its beauty and innovation, but also its housing crisis. Amidst the sunshine and tech booms, a darker reality exists, a growing number of evictions. This essay delves into California's eviction laws, exploring their perceived corruption and impact on landlords and tenants. We will navigate the legal landscape, analyze public opinion, and highlight the challenges faced by those caught in the eviction process. Critics argue that strong tenant protections have created a system ripe for abuse, with lengthy delays and exorbitant legal fees. The term corrupt is often used to describe systems perceived as rigged or unfair. In California's eviction laws, this perception stems from a belief that the scales are tipped in favor of tenants, even in clear lease violations. Critics argue that the process is so arduous and expensive for landlords that many are forced to settle out of court. Navigating the complex laws requires specialized knowledge and often involves hiring attorneys, inflating the cost. This complexity, coupled with strict procedural requirements, creates ample opportunities for delays and legal challenges. Some landlords argue that certain cities and counties are particularly tenant-friendly, with judges more likely to side with renters. To understand California's eviction laws, it's crucial to examine the political forces that have shaped them. The state has long been a battleground for tenant rights, with powerful advocacy groups lobbying for increased protections. On the other side are real estate groups and landlord associations advocating for policies they believe will create a fairer system. This tug of war has resulted in a complex patchwork of laws, often reflecting the political climate at the time of their enactment. Critics argue that well-intentioned policies have unintended consequences, incentivizing landlords to raise rents to mitigate their risk. The issue of evictions is often portrayed as a battle between landlords and tenants. This simplistic narrative ignores the nuances of a complex issue, often failing to acknowledge the legitimate concerns of both sides. Public opinion is divided, shaped by personal experiences, media portrayals, and political leanings. Carlos, while there is sympathy for tenants facing eviction, there is also recognition of the challenges faced by landlords, many of whom are small-time property owners. The media often focuses on tenants facing eviction due to circumstances beyond their control, neglecting instances where tenants may be exploiting the system.
One of the most common complaints against California's eviction laws is the sheer amount of red tape involved. From filing the initial notice to navigating court hearings, the process can be a bureaucratic nightmare, often stretching out for months.
This protracted timeline can be frustrating for both landlords and tenants, creating uncertainty and financial strain. Even in cases of egregious lease violations, landlords must adhere to strict timelines and procedures. While these safeguards protect tenants from wrongful evictions, they can also be exploited, allowing individuals to remain in their homes without paying rent. The court system is often bogged down with a backlog of cases, leading to lengthy wait times for hearings and rulings. Evictions are not time-consuming, but also financially burdensome for landlords. From attorney fees to lost rent, the costs can quickly add up, making eviction a last resort for many property owners.
This financial strain is compounded by the fact that landlords are often unable to collect unpaid rent or recover damages. Legal fees associated with evictions can be substantial, particularly in cases involving protracted court battles. Beyond legal costs, landlords face the loss of rental income during the eviction process and any subsequent vacancy period. This financial strain can be particularly acute for small-time landlords who rely on rental income to cover mortgages and other expenses.
Section 7. Case Studies. Landlords caught in the crosshairs. The complexities of California's eviction laws are best illustrated through real-life examples.
Consider Sarah, a single mother who owns a duplex in Los Angeles. One of her tenants stopped paying rent, citing job loss due to the pandemic. Despite numerous attempts to reach a payment arrangement, Sarah's tenant remained unresponsive. Left with no other option, Sarah initiated eviction proceedings. Due to court backlogs and the tenant's repeated requests for postponements, the process dragged on for over a year. During this time, Sarah lost thousands of dollars in unpaid rent and legal fees, pushing her to the brink of financial ruin.
In another case, I, a retired teacher who rented out a room in my home, found myself trapped in a legal nightmare. My tenant, who had a history of mental health issues, began exhibiting erratic behavior, making it impossible for me to live peacefully in my own home.
Section 8. The Ellis Act. A loophole in paradise. The Ellis Act, passed in 1985, allows landlords to evict tenants if they intend to go out of the rental business.
While meant to provide landlords with a way to exit the rental market, the Ellis Act has been criticized for being a loophole that allows for evictions in rent-controlled cities. In cities like San Francisco, the Ellis Act has been used by some landlords to evict tenants and then convert their properties into condominiums or sell them at market rates. This practice has contributed to the displacement of long-term residents and fueled concerns about the erosion of affordable housing options. Proponents argue that it is a necessary tool for landlords who can no longer afford to maintain their properties or wish to pursue other investments.
Section 9. Tenant Protection Act of 2019. A glimmer of hope or more red tape? In 2019, California passed the Tenant Protection Act, also known as AB 1482.
The law limits annual rent increases to 5% plus inflation and requires landlords to have a valid reason for evicting tenants. Proponents argue that it provides much-needed stability and protection for renters, particularly in the face of skyrocketing housing costs. Critics argue that the law goes too far, creating a disincentive for property owners to rent out their units and potentially exacerbating the housing shortage. The Tenant Protection Act represents a significant shift in California's housing policy, aiming to tip the scales in favor of renters.
Section 10. Conclusion. Striking a balance. California's eviction laws reflect the complex interplay between property rights, tenant protections, and the need for affordable housing. While the system is designed to protect vulnerable tenants from wrongful evictions, it can also create unintended consequences for landlords. The perception of corruption stems from a belief that the system is rigged against landlords, favoring tenants even in clear lease violations. Finding a balance between the rights of tenants and the needs of landlords is crucial to creating a more equitable housing market. Addressing California's eviction crisis requires a multifaceted approach, including streamlining the legal process and offering resources to those facing eviction.